So since RTA is coming at the end of the next patch, I thought I would revise my RTA tier list. This was made 5 months ago. We have a slew of espers that has been released, which I think should change the meta considerably. And yeah, this was my previous RTA tier list. So the first thing I'm gonna go through is, this is purely from my experience and my opinion and what I think the future meta is going to be, because I don't really know. We haven't actually had RTA for like the 5 months, judging from that previous video, but I think this is how the direction is going to go. And the way I'm going to be ranking all of these espers is that all summonable espers will be ranked at R2 and below. They will not go any higher than R2. And then current fusion and past fusions like Gabriel and Lucas will be ranked at R6. And then Shimmer Netfice will be ranked at R0. Epics will be ranked at R6. So let's get straight into it. This was the previous lineup that I had. Let's do some evaluations. I think Abigail will be still in the meta. She's really good. She has a 100% AP push and also a revive. A revive 100% AP push is really good. She has a massive shield on her S2. Yeah, she's just very good as a RTA unit. And one more thing I forgot, this is going to be purely an RTA tier list, not PvP, not like point war or knockout. If it's like including those, this tier list would be null and void. So this is purely RTA, okay? Warm-up match. So okay, Abigail, I think she would stay at meta. And then Gabrielle R6, because she's a past fusion. I think she's going to stay at R6, and the longer-winded explanation will come right after this when I ranked a certain esper. CJ R2, I think he's still going to be in the meta, because R2 CJ, I've always regarded AP manipulation espers as very high, and CJ at R2, not only does he swap the HP, he also swapped the HP and AP. So that's just super broken, especially when him being a DPS character as well, defense scaling DPS character, which just makes him survive better and also just does a lot of damage, a lot of utility as well. He has a stun on his second skill, a strip as well on his second skill. So he's just going to stay in meta. Very good. Let's go check if there is a bump down. I think Fabrice is going to get down a tier, and the reason is because Abigail exists and they pretty much do the same thing, and another unit which is Xuan Pin also exists. So Fabrice doesn't really offer all that much anymore. He's okay. He does have actually, because of one unit, I think he's going to stay in very good, and I'll explain why once I get to that unit. So he's going to stay in very good because he has that 2 turns of immunity, and he has the 100% AP push on his S2, including an attack up. So I think he's going to stay in very good, and I'll get to it in a bit. Unas R0, I think he's... yeah... okay, I'm gonna leave Unas alone in very good for now. Clara is going to stay in the very good. She has a cleanse AP push and a 2-turn immunity at R2. So she's very good, and she's going to stay there. If you don't draft properly, the control team is always going to be the best. What I mean by that, if you're using a tank team without Jin Yu Yao and without a hide, and someone drafts a control team, you are fucked. You're not gonna get a single turn in, which is why all of these cleansers or all of these immunity providers will always be ranked very high, because the control meta is always going to be there. If you don't draft properly, you are pretty much screwed. The control team will triumph any other team, because it just denies your turn and then slowly chips away at your HP. Even if you have an R6 across the board team, but if you don't draft properly, like bringing Jin Yu Yao against a control team, then you're kind of screwed. So Clara is going to stay there, and Nessidora, I think she's gonna go down a bit. Yeah, I don't think she provides much. She has that 30% HP cut, but they removed her stun on her S3. Now it's a single target stun on her S2, which it's okay, but it's not really gonna be that game breaking, so I'm gonna be bumping her down. Positioning is not in particular order. Like everyone in this tier, like Ollie is not ranked the lowest in the very good tier, so yeah, the positioning does not matter. I'm gonna leave Ollie in the very good tier because he does have a speed lead, and in RCA that single death prevention is actually really good, and at R2 he provides 2 turns of that, so I think he's gonna stay there. JJ is going to stay there. If you don't draft properly, or if you draft a cleave team or a control team that doesn't deal with JJ, then you kind of could get screwed, because when he gets into that demon mode, he could potentially one-shot one of your espers, but against like tank metas, he kind of struggles a bit, but he can still work against tank lineups if you don't draft properly. So I think he's gonna stay in the very good tier. He's kind of fallen off, but he's still okay. So R2 height, I would say he's still gonna be in the very good tier, and that's because of one unit, which I'll get into in a bit. Cecilia, I think she's gonna go bump down, unfortunately, because she doesn't really provide much. She has a cleanse, an immunity provider, but her revive it's okay. It's not really that crazy in RTA, so I think she's gonna bump down. Tricky is he's always like pesky to deal with, but I think at this point, nah, control team is still gonna be, yeah, tricky. I think he's still gonna be in the very good tier, because control teams, again, if you don't draft properly, you basically insta lose. So he's gonna stay in the very good team, and then Pritzker as well, he's gonna stay in there. He's not really counted by Jinyu Yao, because even if you cleanse, the rest of the allies have gotten their cooldowns increase, so Pritzker is going to stay. He's going to stay in the very good tier. Sienna as well stay. Lucas, he's going to stay. He's still a really good AP manipulator unit. Unfortunately, he kind of sucks in buff stripping, so that's one downside of him. But he's still a very good AP manipulation unit. Meredith as well, I think she's going to stay in there. She's a bruiser on her S3. She does a lot of damage, she heals, she provides speed up, and yeah, she just does a lot of damage as well. She's gonna stay there. Everett as well staying there, and I think that settles it for the good tier. Raven, I think Raven might either be meta or very good. I'm gonna put her in meta. She has the best chance to AoE strip, which means you can bring her in control setup or even cleave setup, because when she also has a defense break, AoE defense break, and she also has HP cap, so you have a lot of ways to use Raven. She also has a 30% attack lead, so if you don't have any attack lead skills, you can run her, and I think she's going to be very, very good in this next upcoming RTA. She's gonna stay there. TA is, yeah, she's too broken at this point. She is not only a speed lead, so yeah, previously she was in good tier, right? Because she didn't have a good kit. She had an okay kit, but the thing that carries her is the 25% speed lead. But now she has that 25% speed lead and an OP kit, which just shoots her up to meta and probably one of the most broken RTA espers in the game right now, because she's your AP pusher, she's your speed lead, she is your stunner, she is your AP control unit, and all the while she gives at R2 she gives your entire team 10% AP every time she S1s. Like, that is too broken. She's gonna jump straight to meta, and you can run her in cleave team, you can run her in control team, you can run her in tank teams even. She's just way too broken right now. Yeah, she's gonna stay in meta, probably add another tier later. And let's go to the next one. Sander, I think he's gonna stay there. He's still pretty good. Jinyu Yao is going to go into meta, because She cannot be stunned. She's always a good bruiser, but only if you have her at R4. Before R4, she doesn't really do all that much damage, but she just helps your team negate any debuffs and also stuns, which is why she's going to straight up go to the meta, because the control teams, like I said, if you don't draft properly, you just pretty much screwed. So yeah, Jin Yu Yao is going to go straight into meta. Jiangman, I would probably bump her down. Liao, I think he's okay. He's still pretty good in the meta right now, because the thing is, you can actually use Liao to counter Jin Yu Yao. When you cage an Esper, Jin Yu Yao cannot cleanse that because it counts as a incapacitation. So yeah, he's pretty good as a control single target controller. He also has a speed lead if you don't have any. And then Ophelia, I think she's gonna stay there. Single target nukers in RTAs is better than AoE nukers, because unless you're bringing like a full team of cleave, but single targets for the most part is going to be better because you only have 4 Espers to run. So a strong single target to wipe out one of the enemies to make it 3v4 at the start is pretty good. So Ophelia is going to stay there. Longmian, he's going to stay there. He's still pretty good, but unfortunately he's power crept by TA. But I think he still is a solid good tier because he has a speed lead. He has stun on his freeze on his S3 and also AP push on his S2, and yeah, he has slow debuff as well on his S3. So he's gonna stay there. Ggez, I think he will be bumped up into very good. I don't think he's gonna be meta. Maybe no, I don't think meta. He's still very good. You know what? Maybe Ggez, I'll put him in very good for now. The reason why is because he is in very good is because you can he can be a AoE buff stripper, he can be a single target stunner, all the while being a very good DPS, and he also has a 40% attack lead for arena or PvP. So yeah, he's just very good. He has 100% accuracy as well, so you can build him with attack and crit damage and then full speed. Yeah, he's gonna stay in very good, maybe in meta, but for now I'm gonna leave him at very good. And then Ashley, I think she's going to stay in good. Unfortunately for Ashley, in Point War she's gonna be like the top meta, but in RTA, since you only have 4 slots to bring, she's not gonna be like that crazy when in terms of damage that she provides. You only have 4 slots, so you can't really wombo with her Rainbow Bridge stacks, but she is still pretty good as a buff attack buffer and pseudo AP manipulation, but that's just about it. So I'm gonna put her, she's gonna stay in the good tier. Elliot is going to bump up to meta, man. He is an insane unit. At R2 he just becomes even more powerful, but at R0 I would say he's probably one of the best RCA Espers in the game. His S3 now with the buff version is 2 hits. Oh no, it does damage to 2 enemies and cooldown increase them to the max, and also buff strip them and strips all of their buffs, which is just so insane. It is so overpowered broken that I think it just shoots him up to one of the best RTA Espers in the game. 2 of the enemy's units cannot do anything aside from S1, and he also taunts, by the way, I forgot about that. He also taunts, so when they S1 to him, resetting his cooldown by 1 turn every time they attack him. And yeah, he can cycle his S3 even faster, which yeah, it just makes him super broken. 2 enemies out of 4 can't do anything. That's just way too broken. He's way too powerful in his buffed form, but you don't see him anywhere in Point War, maybe aside from R6, but in RTA you will definitely see him everywhere when it comes around. And then I would say Dahlia is going to get a bump down. I don't think Cleave is going to be like the thing anymore. You're either running control or you're running tank teams, and Cleave only if you have a certain Esper. which I'll get into in a bit. So Dahlia is going to get a bump down. I don't think she's going to be all that good anymore. She also got nerfed on her S2. She used to be a very good single target freeze unit, aside from her AP push, but now she doesn't really freeze all that well. She got the chance to freeze got nerfed, so yeah, she's gonna get bumped down. Li Guang as well, I think he's gonna get nah, I think he's gonna stay. He's a single target damage dealer, which again is pretty good in a 4v4 situation. As long as you can one-shot a unit and make it a 3v4, then you're still pretty good. Same with Lewis, very strong single target damage. Boy, I forgot one more thing. Shimmer, Net Force, I would say, ranking them, I would not go above R2 because it's not really realistic to get R6 Shimmer, Net Force. So either she's here, her R6, I think she would be here because her S2 becomes insanely powerful. She increased cooldown on every single hit, so that just makes them super powerful. But I think even without her R6, maybe she's in very good tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put her in very good tier. Her S3 now got fixed. If you don't know, Aeon made a video on her S3 that it now strips first and then cooldown increase, which makes her very good. Previously, she would cooldown increase first and then strip, so she just doesn't work. And now with that being fixed, she's actually pretty good now, and I think she's pretty good in this tier because control teams, again, if you don't draft properly, you're kind of screwed. She's also pretty reliable buff stripper, better than Lucas actually. So yeah, I would say she's in the same tier as Lucas and all the likes. And then Sally is going to stay in the very good in the good tier because she is a cleanser, even though she's not R6. If she was R6, she would be in the meta because then she would be able to take a turn during the Sweet Harvest phase. Below R6, it kind of wastes too many turns and it's kind of detrimental to your team. But she is still a pretty good cleanser. She AoE cleanse on her S2 and also levels the HP, and her S3 is also a cleanse on every turn, so she does have that for her. So she's gonna stay in that tier. Brewster R2, I think either very good or good tier. I think he's very good tier. Nah, he's still a single target damager, which again is better than most AoE DPS for RTA standings. But then again, nah, I think he's gonna bump up. He's still very good. He also has a 100% AP push on his S3, and he has a stun on his S2. And his S1 also provides defense break, which is very crucial in RTA. When you can single target defense down a unit, then laser focus on that unit, the damage is just pretty insane. All of your supports can do damage due to Brewster assisting on every hit. So yeah, I think he's going to be in the very good tier. You put him on Ocean Waves, he can actually just pop off like crazy. Intisar, I think R2 Intisar, she's going to go in the very good tier because Nusi is going to run around rampant and Elliot is going to run around like crazy. Elliot cooldown increaser, but it doesn't really matter because when she takes her turn and S1 without the stealth buff, she will then pursuit with her S3. So it's kind of like she doesn't have any cooldown on her S3 whenever there's no stealth buff on her. So she's gonna go in the very good tier. If you're not facing up against Elliot or Feng Nusi, then she has that stealth to protect her. So she's better than most DPS because most DPS they will get tunnel pretty easily. But with Intisar, she has that stealth buff. She can protect herself pretty well. Ife, I don't even know why I have Ife in the good tier, so she's gonna get bumped down. Dalen as well, I don't know why I had him in the good tier. And I think that's about it. For Meh, I think she is going to go up a tier. Yeah, I think her S3 and her S2 is going to be very good in this current meta. So she's gonna go up in the tier. The S3 is a 75% damage reduction. It's a reflect. So if you put that on Everett, Everett cannot be stunned, cannot be debuffed, and he's also going to reflect 75% of incoming damage to him. So it's pretty much like if you put that buff on Everett, Everett is going to be immortal basically for 3 turns. So yeah, I think she's going to go in the good tier. Drew is pretty much a meme, but I think he's gonna stay in the meh tier. Unless you're running Fabrice or Abigail or Xuanpin, he's not gonna work as well. So he's gonna stay in there. Then Fatum sisters, I think they're gonna get bumped out. At R2, she does provide a misrate up on her S3, and now she also has a revive, right? If I'm not mistaken. No, her R0 now already has the misrate up. The R2 provides a revive. So yeah, she's gonna go up a tier, not in the very good tier, I don't think, because her S3 is kind of lacking. She does provide a AP push by 60% and a defense up for 3 turns, but aside from that, she doesn't really do much. She does have that revive and full cleanse on 1 Esper, and also the invincibility buff is also pretty good. Basically in this tier, it doesn't really matter what rank they are. They're pretty much a troll pick anyways. Yeah, I don't even know why Ankicha is here. He's gonna get bumped down. Donar is still in this tier. He doesn't really work all that well. Maybe here. I think he's in good tier because he does have the immunity for his S3. If he does get a turn and put that immunity up, he can still be pretty good. But you need a pretty fast Donar for that to happen. And Donar, I would rank him at R6 because you can buy him from the Point War shop. So at R6 he does become pretty decent. Not really all that good, but he's okay. And then Alice, I think she's gonna stay there. You can build a unit, a team, troll team with Alice and the invincibility lady, Nicole. They kind of work okay, but aside from that, not really all that much. She's an AP pusher and a healer. She's okay. She kind of sucks everywhere else. Her S3 doesn't really provide much. It does a 1 turn of standoff, which again doesn't really do all that much. She does cleanse all of the debuffs, which I think is pretty good in the current meta, that in the future meta that we will be getting into. I think he's going to get bumped up. Again, he's a control Esper with a silence, and he can also cooldown increase. So if you're going up against a Jinyu Yao, you can actually silence the Jinyu Yao and also cooldown increase her. So yeah, he's gonna stay in the good tier, but I don't think he's gonna go any higher. Melanie, I don't know. Maybe she's in good tier because she does have that speed lead. If you don't have any other speed lead, then you can use her. She's also Shimmer, so she cannot miss. And she's a AP controller that can also petrify enemies, so I think she's okay. It's the fact that there is Lucas that is just much better than her, and he is also free to play, so that's why she's like not ranked any higher, because she doesn't really do all that much. But I think she's okay. Nick is going to go up into the good tier because he can strip reliably, even more reliable than Lucas, but unfortunately he is a silence Esper, which Jinyu Yao can cleanse unless you are running him with Zhongnan. Then his silence is not really all that effective. You're better off running stuns instead of silence. His S2 is pretty good, but the chance is too low to be reliable, which is why I can't really rank him in very good tier. But his R6 can strip buffs on his S3, which makes him quite variable. Embla, I think she's going to stay in the meh tier, or maybe in the good tier, but nah. It's very hard to make Embla work because she doesn't work against Hyde, she doesn't work against Jinyu Yao, even though she can get a ton of turns. Getting a ton of turns is not really a good thing, because when you get a ton of turns, you proc out of your defensive buffs. For example, you have an immunity on Embla, but because the Jinyu Yao cleansed the Corrupted Seed, she gains 30% AP, and then she gets a turn. Now she doesn't have the immunity buffs, and she can get stunned and everything. So yeah, it doesn't really matter if you get like a bunch of turns, but those turns are pretty much null when you don't do enough damage, which is the case for Embla. Aside from her S3 and her Corrupted Seed exploding, she doesn't really do all that much damage. So I think she's gonna stay in the meh tier. And then in the bad tier, you don't really need to look at them. They really suck. The twins are here because Ben, the Ben face is a thing, plus platinum. Below platinum, you can maybe rank them in good tier, but in platinum and above, they will not go above bad tier, because when you draft the twins and the enemy bans out either one, then you're in a situation that is 3v4, not in a 4v4 anymore, because the twins by themselves, they don't really do anything. The red twin does provide a defense break, single target defense break, but that's about it. And the green twin does have a debuff extension on his S3, but his S2 has too low of a chance of stun that it doesn't really warrant you to just bring him alone. So yeah, the twins are gonna stay in the bad tier. Now let's go into the juicy part. Feng Nusi is going straight into a new tier, God tier. She's a strip, a cooldown increase on the same skill, by the way, and also she gains AP based on the number of buffs the enemy has. So if the enemy has both light set and shield set, she's going to gain 80% AP whenever she does her S3. Her S2 has a full cooldown reset on a single Esper, which also AP push by a maximum of 25% if I'm not mistaken, and also gives speed up. Her S1 has an AoE minus 20% AP on the enemies if depending on her amount of paper talisman. She is just way too broken of a unit. She's going to stay in the God tier along with TA and Elliot. Yes, TA is just that broken, provides too much. Like I said, speed up, no, not speed up, speed lead, the best controller. Whenever you look at the game, it's always your turn when we have a TA. And Elliot, once again, shutting down 2 out of 4 of the enemies is just way too broken. And also taunting them so that they target Elliot, so that he can reset his S3 cooldown even faster. And then potentially shutting down all 4 of the enemies is just way too broken. So these are the current 3 God tiers. There's not much explanation needed. Tever, oh my god, Tever is also gonna go in the God tier. He's just way too good. He's the best AoE, sorry, not AoE, single target DPS currently. Pair him up with Abigail or Xuan Pin or Fabrice. You can have him 0 speed, get his turn, boom, nuke someone, and then the next turn he gets, he's also going to nuke someone, and then basically the match is over within 4 turns of Tever taking a turn. He's just way too good right now. Yeah, in RTA, when you can control your Espers, he's just that much OP. He also, if you guys don't know, his buffed version strips on his S3. Full strip, so even if the enemy has a standoff buff, he's going to strip all of those buffs, and then the enemy is pretty much screwed, getting one shot by him. Anyone that has the highest HP or highest defense is going to get one shot by him regardless. Yeah, he's just way too crazy. He counters the revive. He also counters speed cleave. As long as you outspeed, you can just snipe the DPS. And if the enemy runs Abigail, they can't really do anything because they can't revive that single DPS that got one shot, but they got one shotted by Tever. So yeah, he's gonna go in the God tier. No question about it. You put him on Avatara. If he counters a unit with the highest HP, or not highest HP or highest defense, he could potentially one-shot that unit on an Avatara. So yeah, that's Tever. Narmer is going to go onto his own tier, which is the lowest tier. In RTA, you only have 4 slots, and Narmer requires a lot of combo for him to work. 4 slots, and one of the slots has to be him, which means you only have 3 buffers. And if the enemy bans out one of the one of the attack buffers, then your Narmer is not going to do any damage. Or if they ban out the AP pusher, then your Narmer is not going to take a turn before he dies. He's just so much problem going on with Narmer. He's only a point war unit, and knockout. But then again, he's only on offense team. He's not even good in defense team. He's purely an offense team unit. And in RTA, he just doesn't work. So he's gonna go straight there. Ethan at R2. What the hell is going on? Why am I losing my Fafnir? Ethan at R2, he's going to go in either meta or very good. But the thing is, turn 1 advantage is still a thing. If you get turn 1, you can force what your opponent is going to do. If you get turn 1, you can control them, you can cleave them. And also Ethan has one of the best AoE defense breaker in the game. With the speed that he provides, you can pretty much get the first turn guaranteed even without a speed lead. With a speed versus speed, you bring an Ethan, you pretty much win that draft already. So he's gonna go in the meta, and against tanks he's also very good because his S2 he applies the panic Ggez if I'm not mistaken, and if the enemy uses anything aside from their S1, all of the enemies with the panic Ggez will then get their cooldown increased by 1 turn, irresistible. And if they use their S1, they eat up by their max HP by 20% if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he's very good. He's also an immunity provider, which again in this meta, immunity provider is a must, and because of one unit. Ethan, 2 turns of immunity is going to be very good for you, so he's going to land himself in the meta tier list. Jinhee is going to go in the good. I don't think she's quite in the very good tier. She does sort of counter Jin Yuyao in a bit, because Jin Yuyao cannot cleanse or retaliate the debuff that she provides. She also has a random buff that she provides on her S3, so if you get like a speed up buff, it's also very good for 3 turns as well. But the reason why you want to bring her is because she stuns an enemy for 2 turns, and her S3 at R6 also fully strips the enemy that she targets. What is going on? Why is my Fafnir team losing every single time? Bro, okay, whatever. Poharu, I think she's gonna be meh. She is a R6. She is a defense breaker, but it's only a 50% chance. She's okay as a bruiser. She has pretty decent multipliers, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, her kit isn't really doing all that much for you. She doesn't have any controls in her skill. She has a seer on her S2, but that's pretty much it. So she's gonna go in the meh tier. Parmy, I think she's gonna be in the good tier, or maybe in the very good tier, because she does have a speed lead and she does very good damage as a controller. So if you build her fast, she's also a controller, a speed leader, and also a DPS. She also has a AP push on her second skill. So yeah, she's gonna be landing on the very good tier. At R6, she has a sleep that cannot be resisted, or rather, if her S3 fails to stun, then she will apply a sleep instead. So yeah, she's very good. Camille, I think she is going to go either good or meh. I think she's good, because at R6 she does become pretty okay. She does decent damage. She has stuns on her S2, but aside from that, she doesn't really offer anything else. Her S1 is actually pretty good though. You can actually extend stuns with her S1, so if you bring like a Ggez and her, you can perpetually stun a unit forever basically, but it's not really a good strategy to go about it. But she's an R6 free, so she's I would say she's pretty decent at R6. She also has a lifesteal below 60%. She does lifesteal quite a bit. Elaine, I would either she's good or meh, because if you're drafting an Elaine, you cannot bring any other units that is AoE, otherwise then her sleep will be completely useless. She is pretty good though. Her sleep is pretty much 100% chance because of the amount of hits that she does on her S3. But when you pick her, the rest of your team needs to also be a single target. spammer or disabler. If you bring an AoE disabler, then Elaine is pretty much useless in that spot, because if you AoE, then you're gonna wake up the enemy, right? So Elaine doesn't really provide much. You're better off using Jinhee or Liao in her place. That way you don't really need to draft your entire team as a single target disabler or whatever. Liao and Jinhee is just way better than Elaine at what she does. Leora is going to go in the very good tier, I think. She just does a lot. She has invincibility for herself. She has 2 turns of standoff. Leora is going to go there. Her S3, most probably don't know, is also a full strip, irresistible. So that's also very reliable. You can rely on her S3 to strip one enemy and then do a decent amount of damage. Yeah, very good. Leora is very good. And Ggez, oh my god, I think she's gonna land herself in the very good. There's so much possibility that you can run Ggez in. You pair her up with Jiang Julie. Jiang Julie now has a 4 turns of perpetual demon mode. And her S3 also cleanses everyone. She also provides the speed, not speed up, the attack buff up. Her S1 AP pushers, but mostly you're gonna be using her for the reset on her S2 and the massive shield that she provides on the S2. So if you put that shield on, let's say once again Everett or something like that, Everett is not going to die for the whole duration of the shield, because that shield is 130% of the max HP. And if you pair her up, there's endless possibility that you can pair Ggez with. You can pair her up with Abigail, and then now all of a sudden Abigail has a 3 turns of revive instead of 7 turns, because Abigail, when she revives, she will then make her S3 become a 7 turns. But if you pair her up with Ggez, then Ggez can reset the Abigail and basically make her revive into 3 turns, which is insane. What's her name? Ayn? Ayn is, I think she's gonna go in the meh tier. She doesn't really provide anything for you. The shield is okay, but her S3 is kind of dookie in RTA, because all she does is a single target defense break and then a pursuit on one of your enemies or one of your allies. And then she does provide a decent, not really, a minuscule damage increase on attacks that is not on your turn, so like Avataras of pursuit attacks. So I think she's gonna go in the mess here. She's not really all that good. Yuhime is going to go on, I think she's gonna go on the good tier just because of the speed lead. She also has decent enough damage on her S3, but her S2 is the main problem with her. You can sort of combo her with immunity and even what's it called, Alexa. Put the S3 on Yuhime, and then Yuhime basically becomes unkillable unless the enemy has a strip or something. So she has some combo, but aside from that, it's basically you're running her just basically for the speed lead and nothing else. Mateo is, I think he's gonna go in the good tier. He is a single target damager, and his S3 does steal buffs, which is pretty good. He also has a single target defense break on his S2. His damage mitigation is quite low, and he's still going to get one-shotted either way. Units without like stealth buff is just going to die, unless that unit has like a massive shield like Ggez or something like that. Then yeah, he just doesn't work. He's a single target damager, and that's pretty much it. Xuanpin is going to go straight into the god tier. She has way too much potential. Her S2 is Abigail's S2. Xuanpin is the sole reason why cleave in RTA can be used. If you don't run a Xuanpin, you pretty much your cleave team is super unreliable, because the enemy can ban out one of your crucial slots, like your attack buffer or your AP pusher or your speed lead. Then you're kind of screwed. But with the existence of Xuanpin, she's your AP pusher, she's your defense breaker, she's your attack buffer, all the while providing an insane amount of damage through her S3, and she can also assist on every single call in and assist on every single attack that she does. Bringing a Xuanpin alone means like bringing 2 Ggez, because her S3 amplifies Ggez or any other DPS damage by 100%. So if you bring Xuanpin and Ggez, you pretty much have like double Ggez right there, and you have so much play that you can go about with Xuanpin. If your DPS is slightly slower, then you can use the S2, push the DPS, and then basically defense break the enemy and then nuke with the DPS. But it doesn't quite work with Ggez because Ggez needs to transform before he can nuke. You want to use DPS like either Zhang Juli or Tever or something like that does not need to transform. You can even run her in a control team because of her AP push, 100% AP push and defense break. So yeah, she just has way too much potential. She's gonna land herself in the god tier. What's this guy name? Izanagi? R2, I think he's okay. Yeah, he's okay. R2 is S2 becomes irresistible, which is kind of like old TA. He steals 30% AP and then redistributes it to your allies. Irresistible, but aside from that, he doesn't really offer all that much. Yeah, R2, I don't think he's gonna go above good tier. The fact that he's even in good tier is due to the fact that his S2 now becomes irresistible and it's an AP push or AP steal skill. If he doesn't have that, he's gonna go straight to bad tier. Genie at R2, I think she's gonna go straight into very good. She's a single target damager that will also damage the enemies when she's stunned, and she does a lot of damage, not needing any other supports with her because she does insane amount of damage by herself on enemy supports. So if your enemy doesn't draft properly, she's just going to wreck all of the enemy, and you basically can just solo the enemy team with her. Javid is going to go in the meh tier. He doesn't really provide much. He is a debuff Esper, and he's also AoE that relies heavily on your other Espers. So in RTA, with only having 4 slots, one of the slots having to be Javid, and then probably one of the other slot is going to be your AP pusher, and then your attack buffer, then you only have one other slot for your other DPS. So Javid is just not going to work. Zuzu, I think he's gonna go straight into the meh tier. Not really in the bad tier, but he's can't really put him in meh tier. He kind of sucks because his trip chance on his S3 is very low at a 40% chance, and aside from that, he doesn't really provide anything for you. He just does bleed stacks, and yeah, that's about it. Valeria is a hard one. Either she's going to be in good or T-tiering in very good, because her R2 provides the damage mitigation on all of your allies, but in RCA, the enemies can laser focus her and then she can't really do anything about it. She's really good in like against AI, because AI will always like use stuff like AoE attacks and then basically give Valeria another turn. But in RTA, the enemies will go straight for her, nullifying her R2, because if the enemies are not doing AoE attacks, she's not going to gain as much AP, therefore not getting as much turn as you would like to. So I think she's going to go in the good tier. She's a decent single target damager, and that's about it. Lian is going to go in the good tier, I think. Not quite in the very good, because once again, she's at R2 right here. She's just a healer. She's a heal bot. Also, she does provide a very massive shield for you, but she doesn't cleanse, unfortunately, because the meta highly favors cleansers. So Lian not having a cleanse kind of shoots her down a little bit, but again, she's a very good healer, and that's about it. I haven't, you know what, I haven't even looked at her kit properly, so I'm just gonna put her in bad tier. I actually don't know what she does. I know she does like a few assist procs, but I think that's about it. Oh my god, this lady Hilda. Yeah, I said it. Hilda is going straight into the god tier. You've seen it first. You've seen it here. Hilda, god tier. And the reason why is because her S3 is currently... What is going on with my Fafnir team? Let me see, how many times have I lost my Fafnir team? Okay, let's get back to Hilda, right? Hilda, we're talking about R0 or R2, right? I think she's gonna be God tier at R0 in RCA. Because, you know what, her R6 is... It states that sleep will no longer be interrupted when she has the buff on herself, right? But it doesn't actually matter when you think about it, because I've already tested her out. She does the poison damage first before the sleep takes effect. So I'm gonna put on the screen how it goes, how the turn determination goes. The first thing is poison procs, poison damage goes first, and then sleep goes first, and then the enemy's turn, whatever they do. So if the enemy is slept, that means their turn is denied. And the way that her S3 works, poison proc first and then sleep. So as long as she has the buff up, your enemies don't have any immunity, they are pretty much perpetually going to get slept and poisoned for the whole duration that she has the buff up. Again, you can chance it with like resist, but Hilda will be built with 100% accuracy. So even if you want to chance it with resist, you only have a 20% chance to resist her sleep. Even if you resist, right, you have that one shot to turn the tide around, which again is not going to do much. If you get the sleep resisted on stuff like Everett or something, Everett is going to use his S3, and then that's just about it. If the enemy drafts Jin Yu Yao against your Lian, right? Lian, as long as she gets a turn, she does her S3, puts everyone to sleep. Now Jin Yu Yao gets a turn. Since she cannot be slapped, she will use her S3 on Lian. If she fails to strip, that's basically over. The fight is basically over. The enemies are gonna get slapped the whole duration that Lian has the buff up, because Jin Yu Yao, unless she is R6, she's not going to do anything past her first S3. So she's going to be an S1 bot against Hilda. Once Hilda takes her turn, the fight is basically over if the enemy does not have immunity provider and a cleanser. You cannot just bring a Clara alone, because Clara, when you have a debuff on you, she will not provide the immunity. So if Hilda takes a turn, she does her S3, she puts all of the stuff, and then Clara takes a turn. Clara cleanses everyone, but she doesn't provide immunity. When that enemy takes a turn, they will get re-slapped by Hilda, because Hilda has the buff on her. So at that point, you not only need Clara to counter Hilda, you need Clara and either Ethan or Gabrielle. Clara alone cannot counter Ethan. Jin Yu Yao alone cannot counter Hilda. Unless Jin Yu Yao manages to strip Hilda, which again, she's stuck disadvantage, so she has 50% chance to miss. But if you do land the strip on Hilda, then you can win. But if you fail, you've basically lost the game. So yeah, Hilda is going to straight up stay in the God tier. She's just crazy when it comes to the control that she can provide, because she controls the enemy during their turn. Not during their turn, right before they take their turn, which is just insane. I'm pretty certain that Hilda is going to stay in the God tier, but most people would probably not run her because she is a new Esper. But those that have her at R0 will probably run her. Yeah, her counter is going to be Hyde and Jin Yu Yao with a immunity provider. So that is why the reason why I have Ethan so high, Gabrielle so high, Fabrice so high, because he provides the immunity. Without immunity, this girl will perpetually put you to sleep and poison you. And Hyde, the reason why he's here, again, it's solely because of Hilda. And I think that's about it. That's the tier list. Narmer is in Narmer tier, and that's the God tier, Meta tier, and yeah, that's about it.